Hello, and welcome to the David Todd Miller Podcast. I'm your host, David Todd Miller. This podcast is about fitness, nutrition, having a positive mindset, and how to optimize the human performance as well as the human experience. This podcast is also about developing a never-say-die attitude, living a life of positivity and passion, and most of all, having hope. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, whenever you are. I hope you're having a wonderful day. This is part 2 of the interview with Viveca Williams. If you haven't listened to part 1, go ahead and jump back real quick for that first part. That is going to be podcast number 6. So today's topics for our second edition is going to cover supplements, what kind of supplements are ones that we take, which ones are the best ones, and we're going to go over whey isolate versus whey concentrate, which one's better for you, where are you going to get the most out of, hot yoga, kin stretching, saunas, and cryotherapy for recovery, overall skincare, and tattoos. How does that affect things, or what do we kind of wonder or think about it? 5-finger shoes and or Vibram shoes, the benefits of those, building mental strength, and the overall value of health. What is the worth, what is the value of health, of being healthy? So I hope you guys enjoy the second part of the interview with Viveca Williams. What's your opinion on supplements, or is it...
You know what? I think that if you have a balanced diet, it depends on what your goal is, what's your end game. If you have a healthy diet, I think the only thing that you truly need are vitamins, because I think that, I do think that most people, even with a balanced diet, don't get all the nutrients that they need or the minerals that they need with the types of lifestyles that we live nowadays, with everything that's in the air that we're inhaling, and all of the things that our body has to deal with and process, the pollutions that we are ingesting on a day-to-day basis. I do think that our body is robbed of certain nutrients because of what we're inhaling and ingesting. So I do think that a multivitamin is important. If you're trying to put on muscle mass, the reality of it is that most people are not going to eat the amount of protein that they need to be able to put on muscle mass and gain that type of muscle. So I do think that it's good to have a protein supplement, but you need to be careful with the types of protein that you're choosing. I've read a few articles on the best types of protein. I believe that the best, and this is just my thought, now I'm not saying that this is gospel or whatever, but I really do believe that the best type of protein, if you're going to do a whey protein, is a concentrate, that it's grass-fed and it's a concentrate, because studies are showing that the isolates have so many chemicals in them from being processed that when they do studies in mice, that they create tumors in mice.
Oh, man.
And a lot of people don't know that. And what's happening now is that they are taking a lot of these proteins and they're combining concentrate with isolate, which it's very difficult to find a straight concentrate protein of whey. So what I decided to do is I decided to use a vegan protein. And the protein that I use I believe it's a pea-based protein.
I've heard a lot of good things about pea protein.
I use organics. That's my choice of protein. And then you can throw if you want to use dairy, you can use whole milk, or you can use like an almond milk or coconut milk or whatever. Throw in some fruit, frozen fruit, and you have a nice little snack, or shake or whatever. So I do think that it's important if you're trying to put on lean mass, to get some type of a protein supplement in. And also, if you're trying to put on lean mass, I think it's important to have some type of a recovery. So that's where you go into your branched chain amino acids, because I do believe that they're good for recovery. But those are, to me, those are really the only things that I think are important. Some people will go as far as to say creatine is important. I think that our bodies, depending on the type of muscular frame that you have, if you're very thick and muscular naturally, I don't necessarily think you need to add creatine to your body. I've talked to several people that have done that it tends to make them very crampy. And I think that it's because their body is already producing enough. But you can get good amounts of creatine from red meat. And I know a lot of people are not proponents of red meat, but I am.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't eat it all the time. You know, I do believe that red meat is the hardest type of protein for your body to digest, so it sits in your body a little longer than any other protein, which can cause a gas buildup. But I do think that it has valuable properties. Creatine is one of them. Iron is another. You know, and I think especially for women, you need to make sure that you're getting the proper amount of iron. And so, you know, red meat is probably one of the best ways to get, you know, iron. But as far as like other supplements, you know, I mean, I guess, you know, it goes back to what I was saying. It depends on what your end game is, your end goal. You know, those are my thoughts.
Okay. You know, the only other thing that I think I take on top of that personally is like I'll take a magnesium.
Yeah.
I feel like you know, from what I've read is that if you do more physical activity or you have more stress in your life or a combination of, which I think is kind of like the norm nowadays. Everyone's just kind of running around like crazy, and you know,
especially in this area where we live,
especially on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And so that has a higher burn rate in the body, and so I'll try and get more magnesium in my diet. I definitely do feel better when I have that than when I do not. And then the other thing, and I've never really noticed a huge effect on it, but I just kind of do it because I've heard so much research. It's just like fish oil.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, mainly omega-3s, which you can get from like your chia seeds that you were mentioning earlier. If I can, I try to include like a fatty fish, like a salmon, definitely not farm, wild caught.
Right.
Got to be kind of careful just because like the mercury and everything, which is hard to, it's hard to really discern which ones are going to have more mercury in it or not. You can kind of guess based on where they're being caught.
From. Yeah, right.
And the only other thing that I'll try, you know, I've heard some things about like boron, like trace minerals. I think are kind of important, but that's one that I've tried every now and then. And then for a while, I was trying ashwagandha, which is like an adaptogen.
Oh wow.
And I don't really know.
What did you think about it?
I think, you know, overall it probably helped because I felt like I was going through like a stressful time several months back, and I felt like it kind of held the line. Like I didn't regress anymore. I was able to come out of it, but I also think it was just a mixture of like not getting enough sleep and not getting enough overall nutrients, and so I felt like once I got the sleep and once I got the nutrients, that's when I started feeling better. So I don't really know if I can say one or the other, but I tried that one as well. But I think, you know, like what I have every day, a multi, like you're saying, fish oil, magnesium. I'll take a zinc just because, especially in men, for testosterone, but also for regenerative properties. Zinc is a really good one, and yeah, that's really about it. Supplement wise, I'll take a whey protein. I've been doing the isolate.
Oh yeah.
So I need to look
into
that.
You really need to look into that.
I need to check it out. For a while, I was even considering doing like a whey hydroslate or something like that, which is probably even worse. That's even more processed.
You know, you have to be careful with what you're putting into your body in terms of process. I just think that it's best to try to do things as natural as possible.
Definitely, and that's, you know, if anyone ever asks me, I say, you know, they say, you know, what's the best diet? I say, you know, get a diet that is high in nutrients and that the calories are fit towards your activity level. You know, there are some people that are just extremely active and they need foods that are not as fiber rich. You know, they're able to be processed more easily. They're more calorically dense, and there's some people that they need something a little bit more fiber, more satiating, more you know, phytochemicals, nutrients, and not as calorie dense. But always going back to just having like natural food that has that nutrient content. And I think if you look at like the modern Western diet, it's very calorie dense but very nutrient lacking.
Right. I would agree with that. I definitely would agree with that. A couple of things that I didn't mention that I do use. I do use a vitamin D supplement.
I do as well.
And that's because, especially living in the city with
all
these skyscrapers and stuff, we don't get a lot of vitamin D from the sun, because we're underground in the subways, and even when you're walking in the streets, because of the skyscrapers, we are really shielded from that. And vitamin D is so important in terms of for our diets. But I also do a collagen supplement, and I do that for my joints. Yeah,
I've done that every now and then.
Yeah, but it's like consistently I do that one. I think it's important. I do it for joints and skin.
That's what I need to get back on. Joint, skin, and then I've also heard that it's really good for like the intestinal lining, building up.
Yeah, it's good for pretty much all of our
connective tissue.
Yeah, definitely.
It's huge.
Yep.
You look at someone who's aged, and you can really see in their hands that the collagen just isn't there. But that's it's an easy, very surface way to see it, but that's going on the inside of the body too, and that's something that people really don't realize or really know about. And then like I hear a lot of people talk about, my joints are sore, my knees, my hip, and that's really coming down to a lot of the connective tissue.
Right. Yep. It's a lot of wear and tear, a lot of improper usage, which leads to wear and tear, a lot of muscular imbalances.
Yeah.
So
a lot
of
of tightness.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking about next. I had a friend recently who recommended a hot yoga class, and I had always, like yoga, I was kind of into. I was wanting to learn more about it. I came across like a Navy SEAL, like Kokoro yoga, and was learning about that. But he's like, hey, try this hot yoga. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go to go. I had never done it before, and I felt so much better afterwards. Yeah. It was like a deep hip opening. Like my hips are always tight, and after doing that, like I was like, wow, I feel like I could walk better almost, And so,
there's a more so than hot yoga. What I would look into is Ken stretch.
Ooh, I've never heard of this.
Because basically what that does is, and they have that at a gym that I work at, that it basically teaches you how to move through your joints, and it helps to stretch and open up your joints. And while you're doing it, it's very painful. It's something that you have to do regularly, but the long-term effects of it are amazing. And actually, you should come to one of the classes.
Okay, I'm interested.
I think that you would like it. It's crazy because you don't. It's a very humbling workout, because we're strong people, we're this, we're that, and then you get into a class and they're asking you to like stabilize everything and just move through that joint, and you really realize, oh my gosh, And one of the things that I was not aware of, that the guy that teaches was basically saying is that as we age, when you think about internal and external rotation, the thing that most people are lacking in is not external rotation, but the ability to internally rotate. And so as we age, that's something that, we need to be more mindful of. And so they give you all these different exercises for your shoulders and your hips. And it's crazy because you're just like, oh my gosh. Like, you're looking around and you see all these little old ladies and they're moving through the exercises. And you're like, really? But it's and I recommend that because I think that hot yoga has its place. I'm not knocking it, but I think that when you're going in and you're new to yoga, it can give you a false sense of flexibility. And so because of the heat, the heat is going to, it's going to open you up and let you stretch a little further than what your body naturally can do. And for some people that it could end up being a little problematic. But the Ken stretch, I definitely think would be something that you would.
Is it K-E-N or K-I-N?
It's K-I-N. Yeah. So it's really interesting. It's like, okay.
Definitely want to check that out.
But you definitely come. The place that I'll find out what the schedule is and see if it can work with you, and then I'll put you on the guest list.
Okay, cool. I appreciate
And
it.
then you can get in and try it.
That sounds
see
good.
if you like it.
I'll have to
very
do
humbling.
another podcast on do a Kins review.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That'd be good.
Definitely. Maybe you can do.
I've never heard of it
maybe
before.
you can do.
Maybe I'll interview
actually,
him.
yeah,
Should
because I
interview
was
him.
thinking because you can get a certification in that type of movement. I forget what the name of it is because he had given me the information because I was thinking about doing it, but it seems to be something that it makes sense, you know. And I think that's one of the things that I do love about the fitness industry is that the more advanced we get, the more people are starting to really find out some really great things about the human body and the best ways to, stay healthy and stay mobile. So
it's an extremely complex system, very holistic, and at least from a personal standpoint. But I think, and I hope going forward that more and more people see, like not only the strength training, not only the cardiovascular and the stretching, and just all. It's very holistic and very multifaceted. And I think the more you can kind of touch in a little bit on each thing, the better, much better off you are. Some other, I don't have access to it, but when I do, and hopefully in the near future, it's like a hot sauna. I've heard a lot of good things. Like
I have a friend that actually has one of those in his house.
Like a heat reactive proteins and
and he uses it regularly.
Heard some. I've been hearing a lot about just to see if you know anything, because I really don't know, of infrared for recovery.
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of good things about that as well.
Yeah, it is very good for recovery with the LED lights. Is that what you're talking about?
I believe
yeah,
so.
they're doing a lot of really great things with LED lights and especially like I have a dermatologist that works with that kind of stuff. It rebuilds collagen. It's really good for your skin.
I heard they're using it for hair too. Like to regrow hair.
You're using it for a lot of things. I don't know what it is about that type of light, but that would be a really interesting podcast for you.
I need to check that one out too.
To do it on.
Had to do that, and then the other one is cryotherapy. It's just extreme
have you
brief
tried that?
cold. I have not.
I would be scared to do that. I would. I'm not gonna lie. Like, apparently, like a lot of athletes are doing it. But for me, I get cold when it's 50 degrees.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine like intentionally, like I shiver to the point that it's painful for me. Like my abs get really sore like the next day and stuff. And that's like anything below 50. So I can't imagine like stepping into something that is
like
where you're
negative 200
right,
like that,
like
or 150,
come
whatever
on,
it is.
Man. But they say that it's supposed to be really good for you.
Yeah, I think
same thing with cupping. Have you tried that?
I have not.
No,
Yeah, I've seen the photos on Instagram. I've seen the people, and oh man.
I work with a lot of people that get it done, and they swear by it.
Man.
But I think with cupping, I think all of those things are great things. But I think you have to be consistent with it. Again, consistency is the key. You can't go in and use it just once, and then be like, well,
I'm good.
I'm good. And then be like, well, how come it didn't work? I think that you have to do it regularly in order to see the full-on results of it. And I think it's the same thing with Kin Stretch. You have to do it regularly. I was doing it for a few weeks, and then I took a break and haven't been back. But I'm gonna go back.
Okay.
Because I did when I was doing it regularly, I did feel better, and my joints aren't sore, but I'm like you, I'm tight, in specific areas. Like I'm very tight in my shoulders. And that, for the other activities that I do is very, it's not a good thing. So that helps kind of to open them up and
feel like your posture is better as well.
Yeah,
The cryotherapy, the closest I've gotten. I remember I think I was in high school. I was going through like an ESPN magazine, and I saw these NFL football players. They were doing like the ice baths.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
You know, they would go back and forth between that and like the hot tub.
How'd that go?
And it was okay. It was okay. I did like a super hard. I think I either came back from football or I had just done like a really hard workout. I had at the time my house had two bathtubs, so I put one, pretty much put the water up as hot as it would go, and I had the other one as cold as it would go, and then I took all the ice from the refrigerator and they just went back and forth. And it was so, the one thing I vividly remember, and it was so weird, is I got in the cold one first. And I was like, right, you're taking the big deep breaths, which is supposed to be really good for you. You're bringing all the heat into your core, into the organs. And then I went to the hot one. I was like, oh, you know, this feels good, even though like my skin's turning red because it's you know, really hot. But then the second time I went back, you're supposed to go back like I think 3 or 4 times. My legs, like all my legs, my arms, it all just started shaking all on its own.
Really?
I'm just sitting in there, not doing anything, and the you know, it probably not as violent as like a seizure or anything like that, but like my muscles are just like going all on their own. It was so weird, and it did it, you know, briefly, and I don't know, you know, it wasn't as bad like breathing wise. Like my breathing is more under control. I was ready for it, but yeah, it was just the weirdest thing. This, you know, like if you ever take a
It's
fish
like
out of
tremors
water,
almost.
yeah, it's like extreme shivering, but like in my entire body. Repeated that another 2 times. That's the only time I've ever done it. And
it's like your brain was saying, abort,
yeah,
abort.
Get out of here, get out of the
What
tub
are you doing?
now.
What are you doing?
Crazy guy. But I tell you what, you know, I was not sore at all the next day, and like the workout I did, like it was at least, we'll say 1.5 times as much as I would normally do, and I would usually be extremely sore.
Well, you know what? It's funny because, do you know who the X-Man is? His name is Tony. I can't think of what his name is. He's a bodybuilder, very huge, and he competed with the IFBB, and he competed for several years, like late 40s, possibly. I don't know if early 50s or not. I'm not sure. But he is one of those guys that swears by things like that. And, you know, one of the things that he and Dara Torres, she was a swimmer for the Olympics that competed a few years ago, and she was like 40, and it was unheard of, and she actually won a medal, I believe, in that Olympics, or if not, she came close. I can't remember. But they both are people that are all for massage and really taking care of your body, because it's an instrument, it's what you use, you know. And so doing things like cryotherapy and deep tissue massage and stuff like that, that for them is what has allowed them to stay competitive in the sport that they do, way beyond the years that the average person competes. And so I think there has to be something to all of these different things that the United States is just now experiencing, that people have been doing over in Europe and in the Asian countries for centuries.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that there's got to be something to it. You know.
I think so as well. I think another one that I had seen, kind of like what you're saying, more overseas, and we do it now in the U.S., but not as prevalent probably, is like Epsom salt baths. But I remember seeing this. I think he's
that's an old remedy.
I can't remember his name, but he's from Russia. Dmitry Klokov. I apologize if I'm screwing his name up. But I just remember seeing this video. He's going through this bath that they have set up, but it's probably, you know, not as big as this room for sure, but it's probably like we'll say a 30 by 30 or something like that. And it's just kind of has like this walkway, but he's literally putting his hand in and scooping up this Epsom salt and just rubbing it into all of his joints and his legs, and
I think
it helps with
method. It's like an anti-inflammatory.
It's very magnesium rich.
Yeah. That's something that that's actually a good idea, and it's something that you can get from any drugstore.
Yeah, it's like $5, $6, $7.
Right,
you get a whole bag. Boom,
right,
just
and I
throw it
never
in.
even considered that.
I need to try. I haven't tried it myself.
I'm gonna start doing that.
I want to give it at least a go.
Yeah, just to see, because, you know, we are active, and I think that it's important to not only be active but also to take care of your body.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of one of the things that I do that I think is very important is do you know what dry brushing is?
I have not heard of this one either. I'm
Okay,
learning a lot
so
today. This is
basically it's
fun.
like that. All right, so like I'm like really, I'm a skincare like fanatic. Like
So like exfoliating?
I love skincare. I love anything that has to do with like nails, skin, hair. That's gonna make you healthier. Have that healthy glow and whatever.
Yep.
So there's this thing that some people do. It's called dry brushing, where you take a dry bristle brush and you can do it twice a day. I usually do it once a day. But right before I take a shower, what I do is I take the brush and I start from my feet and I brush up all of my skin. I brush, brush, brush.
Just like one
brush, brush,
one
brush.
swoop, or
no,
you get a couple?
like several. You
Okay.
brush and you keep brushing. You brush around. You brush up the thighs. You brush everything up. You're brushing up towards your heart, and what it does is it helps with circulation and stimulation. It also sloughs off all the dead skin cells. So it's supposed to be something that's really, really good for blood circulation and blood flow and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
so I do that regularly. And one of the things that I have noticed, because here we have very hard water. Have you noticed that?
I
the
have.
water is very hard.
Yeah.
This really helps to keep your skin healthy and
I
softer.
ended up getting one of the brushes.
Yeah.
I had never, like I said, I'm from Illinois, and so
Mhm.
I had never really had that hard water.
Yeah, I'm
And so
from Ohio. Listen, I know we don't have that kind of water like they do out here.
It's
This
intense.
water is horrible.
It's intense.
Okay, but dry brushing you should read up on it because it's really good for
The
blood
heart
circulation.
The
and the heart.
circulation
Yeah.
aspect is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so it's really cool. Yeah, that's what I do.
Very cool.
I don't know why. Where are you coming up with all this stuff? It's stuff that I read up on. It's
Yeah.
like
It's holistic care.
yeah.
Holistic
Yeah,
care.
and I think I think when you take care of the instrument that you've been given, not just physically, like not just like with working out, but like physically, make sure that your joints are not swollen, make sure that you're getting rid of those dead skin cells. And it's real. I think that one of the key things is really doing it when you first wake up in the morning, like right before you shower, the dry brushing because of the circulation, it gets the blood circulating and stuff like that.
It's very true. You've been immobile that
right.
whole time.
Right, but I just feel like it's very important. Like our skin is the biggest organ that we have. And I think a lot of people don't really realize the importance of that of taking care of that organ and what it does for us, how it protects us, and to me, I just think it's important to take care of it.
It's huge.
So.
Yeah, the last person I interviewed was a dentist, and he was talking about like how if your gum health is poor, how it can affect your digestive system, and it's I'm sure there's some, if you're not taking care of your skin, there's an issue with it. So like holistic care is very important. Like we're taking care of the digestive system, the skin, the hair, nails, everything. Just really trying to maximize the overall health.
Because what you have to understand is that everything that we have that makes up our body serves a purpose. Regardless of whether people want to believe that or not, it serves a purpose. It's part of what keeps us running properly. So when you start tinkering with and damaging or removing or putting things in that don't necessarily belong, you are, with all intents and purposes, what's the word that I'm looking for? You are compromising what has been created and what is a perfectly functioning tool. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So you have to look at it like that. Like everything that makes us up and puts us together serves some type of a purpose. And the skin, to me, is one of those things. It's funny because I was having a discussion with my sister. My sister was here. She came in to town for a few days, and she left this morning. But we were talking about this yesterday, and I was like, I often wonder And again, there's no judgment, but it's just the curious mind of me wondering what is the effect of having a full body of tattoos? If the skin is the largest organ and it serves the purpose of protecting us, and it's almost it's breathable. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, pores have a purpose. What happens when you put all that ink on?
There's got to be
What
some
is the
effect to it.
right,
And
exactly.
I don't see it being a positive one
Right,
either.
right,
It's it's going to the dermis.
right,
It's going to the deepest
right.
layer
It's something that lasts for
ever.
right. And so to me, you can't, and it's not, like I said, it's not that I'm judging. It's just my curious mind that's thinking long term. What is the effect of getting a full body, a bunch of tattoos that covers up the majority of your skin?
Yeah.
And I think because it's something that's just now becoming more prevalent, we won't know that for
A while.
decades.
Yeah. Even just from a simple standpoint, it's kind of what we were talking about earlier with vitamin D. Like
Mhm.
that area of the skin can't be absorbing as much
Right.
vitamin D because it's essentially being blocked.
Right,
So I mean, even just from a vitamin D standpoint,
Right.
but there's got to be other side effects.
right.
So
You
it's
know?
that's a very good point.
So I mean, I think that,
It makes you
that
wonder.
goes back to thinking about long term, and making choices.
I got my Under Armour shoes on. I like Under Armour.
I love Under Armour.
They're a pretty good brand.
Yeah.
They do it right.
Yeah.
But I also have some Vibram 5-finger shoes
Uh-huh.
of like almost like the
Yeah,
toe
my
shoes.
sister has those.
And I really like those. The only time I really don't like it is like if I go for a really long run, my feet aren't used to it yet.
Mhm.
But I feel a lot better in it. I feel a lot more natural. But just kind of going back to like, okay, well, like what you're saying, like we already had this perfect system, and why put this giant heel on our feet when we already have a perfect multifunctional adaptable foot. Like a lot of people get injured from rolling their ankle. I put those things on. I try and roll my ankle and I can't do it because you can't. If you do it barefoot, you can't roll your ankle.
Right.
It'd have to be like some crazy turn, but just on a flat surface you can't do it. And I feel more connected to the ground, and then that kind of makes me think of like grounding. I've heard some people talk about that like just we always have a layer between us and the earth, and how I've never seen like a ton of research. It's something I'm interested in, of like grounding, of like being barefoot and having your skin on like the grass or the ground, and how there's supposed to be like a exchange of energy between you and the earth, and you're supposed to just like electricity, like everything's grounded. So something else that I'm interested in finding out more.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What I will say is that I do think that shoes make our feet lazy.
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
Like, I think that when initially, before people started wearing shoes, I truly do believe that our feet the toes probably moved similar to our fingers.
Yeah.
And I think that the lack of mobility has made our feet very lazy, our toes very lazy. If you think about, to me, if you could take the body parts of different sports, I would train my feet like a dancer, like a ballet dancer trains their feet. And the reason I say ballet dancers is because if you think about it, when they're on point, truly, they are literally supporting their body weight with their big toe. So you
Amazing.
think about the strength that has to go into that entire foot for them to be able to support their body weight with just their toes, mainly the big toe. And so when you look at, because I've looked at videos and I've tried to do some of the exercises, and I probably should do these more often. I've tried to do some of the exercises that ballet dancers do for their feet. And when I do them, I do notice that my toes are stronger and I can do, my feet. For a while, I was having an issue with my Achilles tendon swelling. And when I started doing those exercises, I noticed that swelling went down. And so I think that there's something to training your feet like that and using those types of shoes, because it makes your feet stronger, and we have muscles in our feet, and if those muscles, other than walking, if those muscles aren't being used like they're intended to be used, because you have on your shoes, of course they're going to atrophy. Your feet are not going to be as strong. Have you ever really looked at like a dancer's foot
I have
compared
not.
to
It's got to be
compared to
quote unquote
somebody
jacked.
that is just a regular person? Now, I work with a bunch of girls that are dancers, and their feet look to me, the muscles in their feet are thicker than the muscles in my feet because I'm not a dancer. And for years, they've been doing things to strengthen those muscles in their feet. So I think that if I had to choose, like, how I would train my feet, I would train my feet like a ballet dancer. I would train my shoulders like a gymnast, and my upper back like a gymnast. I would train my legs like a sprinter. I would train my abs like a gymnast or a diver.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So like if you think about like the different sports and the body parts that they use predominantly for that sport, that's how you need to train each body part if you wanted the ideal strength in terms of your body.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think about a lot of crazy stuff.
I've thought the same thing.
Yeah?
I've thought the same thing. What was I wanting to say? So it's funny you say that about the feet. I was actually talking to a client today, and we gotten on the topic of, there's a gentleman. He said he thought he was from the Philippines, but the man was born without arms, and so he learned how to use his legs and his feet, specifically like the hands. And he's really into working on cars, and he was able to change.
I've seen him.
I haven't seen the video. I need to check it out.
You should watch
He was able to change like a whole transmission in a car. Turn the wrench and everything with his feet.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That video is very amazing. And so when you go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that it's amazing. Not only that he, I just think, I'm happy with myself if I can pick a T-shirt up off the ground and put it on in the clothes hamper with my foot.
You're like,
I'm like,
cool.
yeah, I feel really cool. But like this, not only I'd be like, wow, it would be a challenge to pick a wrench up, put it on, and twist it, let alone take out a whole car transmission. I can't imagine doing that right now with arms and legs.
Right. So when you think about that, when you think about people that are out there that have all of these disabilities that are doing amazing things like that,
It's incredible.
those of us that have the usage of all of our limbs and our minds, there's no excuse for us. Do you know what I mean? There's
None.
absolutely no excuse. When you think about people that don't have limbs, there's a girl. I work in the aerial world as well, so like pole and lyra and silks. And there's a girl that's in the aerial world that she has no legs, and she's an aerialist, and she's
All
very
up her body.
she's very good, And so when you think about stuff like that, it's amazing what we can do with the power of our minds, because somewhere deep inside you have to have the will and the mindset to say, you know what, I'm not going to let this disability stop me from doing the things that I want to do, stop me from being successful at the things that are interesting to me, And so if somebody that has that disability can accomplish their goals, then why can't we accomplish our goals, regardless of, whether it's, being healthier, and being more active, losing weight, quitting an addiction. And I know and understand that addictions are hard, but there's got to be something in your mind, because there are some people that actually are successful with, quitting smoking and drinking and, doing drugs and stuff like that. So the power of the mind, you should never underestimate the power of the mind and what the mind can and will allow us to do.
Yeah, it's truly our greatest asset. It's truly our greatest strength, and literally the world around us and within us comes from our mind. It's our greatest blessing for sure. And it's something that we can mold and make into something extremely powerful and resilient and beautiful and all that at the same time. It's amazing, but it can be extremely influenced by the outside world, but it can also be protected within. And I think that's something that as an individual you have to constantly be aware of, to have a self-awareness to what your mind is exposed to and how you're reacting with it and what you're accepting and not accepting. And I think that is the crux of every decision and choice that you have. There's one other thing I was wanting to say. Can I think of it? Is there anything that you'd like to add so far?
Not really. I just, to me, I know for myself that I want to have a life of fulfillment, and I believe that the best way to do that for me is to be able to be active, so that I can have a healthy body, so that I can climb stairs to, great monuments, and so that I can walk through, pastures that are in different countries, and just experience things that, if I'm not active or if I, am not healthy, I won't be able to do, and I just, like I said, like I've been saying throughout this entire thing, I don't think that you can put a price on health. I don't think that the most powerful of businessmen, the most wealthy of people, on their deathbed, or when they get sick, I don't think that the thing that they're saying is, oh, I, wish I was working more. I think one of the things that they're saying to themselves is, why didn't I do better with my body? Why didn't I take better care of myself? Because you can't buy health. That's one thing you can't buy. You can buy a lot of things, but health, you can't buy that. Even if you have the money to get a heart transplant, you still can't buy health because you are still marred with having to take medication so that your body doesn't reject that heart.
The new heart, yeah.
So it's so important,
That concludes part 2 of the interview with Viveca Williams. I hope you guys are enjoying it and getting a lot of great information out of it. We have one more part in this 3-part series. It's going to be a little bit shorter than the first 2, but still full of great information. So keep your eyes and ears, peeled for that one. Thanks again, guys, for taking time out of your day to listen to the podcast. Also, thanks to Natural Machine Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. If you're interested in natural supplements without fillers, dyes, chemicals, anything like that, check out Natural Machine Nutrition at naturalmachinenutrition.com. And if you would like to contact me for any reason for podcast ideas, people who you'd like to hear interviews from, anything like that, go ahead and send me an email at info@davidtoddmiller.com. You can also find more content at davidtoddmiller.com. I have workout videos, nutrition videos, some cookbook recipes, behind the scenes of any kind of fitness modeling or anything like that I've done. And if you're interested in personal training or nutrition, you can reach me at wallstreettrainer@gmail.com, or you can go ahead and schedule a consultation on the website. If you're not located here in New York City and looking for a one-on-one semi-private class for personal training, you can still reach out to me and I can put together an online program for you going over the details for workout and or nutrition, and we can pretty much just correspond via a mobile application that you can download right on your phone. So that's another possibility as well. Again, thank you guys. Sincerely appreciate your time. Go out there, have fun, enjoy every moment life has to offer, live your passion, help others, and most of all, have hope. This is David Miller, out.